Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Let us move into the second panel session of the day, Harnessing Malaysia's Potential as a Cybersecurity Innovation Hub, brought to you in collaboration with Cybersecurity Malaysia. This session will be moderated by Mr. Anwar Mohammad Yusof, Head of Industry Development and Collaboration from Cybersecurity Malaysia. Mr. Anwar, over to you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, MDEC, for inviting us for this session. And I guess we have quite a bit of time here, 1.5 hours, to discuss about how we're going to be looking at Malaysia's potential as a cybersecurity innovation hub. And I guess one of the key things that we need to look into is like cybersecurity and innovation, because cybersecurity is usually designed, it's not exactly makes your production or your innovation faster. Cybersecurity always slows you down, you put in your data leakage protection, you put in a firewall, you put in your intrusion prevention system. This is not going to make me work faster. Well, anyway, let's have that discussion now. And I have four of my good friends here: Mr. Tang from Rackspace, Megat from Bank Muamalat, Amit from Abyres, and Scott from Crowdstrike. Guys, I will introduce you later, but allow me a few minutes to introduce Cybersecurity Malaysia and what we are doing in the context of looking at innovation and looking at safeguarding Malaysia's internet space here. Wow, I need to refresh back. Okay, just a quick background. We've been around for almost 23 years, started off as Malaysian CERT, Computer Emergency and Response Team, way back in 1997. And over the years, we have progressed from a small department of about 10 plus people to about 300 now. And we've moved around, okay? We've been moving around from the Ministry of Science and Technology to now communications and multimedia. Looking at the vision, mission, of course, the whole plan is to be a world-class technical cybersecurity specialist agency. So we are not looking into monitoring or becoming the policeman of the internet, but we are looking into how to develop a more and safer cyber resilient ecosystem. And of course, we are looking at driving the national national Malaysian agenda, delivering quality services. And the key thing here is nurturing of people, expanding our knowledge and improving on the technical aspects. Yeah? So these are the functions. When we first started way back in 97, we were the Malaysia's Computer Emergency Response Team. We were MyCERT. And over the years, we have progressed. We were known as NICER, National Information Security Emergency Response Team, where we expanded our services to emergency services, of course, professional development, i.e. training, and providing advisory services through ISMS, quality management services. And then when we became Cybersecurity Malaysia, we expanded our services to industry and research development to include more risk assessment, technical coordination, as well as looking at the Malaysia's national cybersecurity policy implementation. Again, like I explained, this is the overall cybersecurity ecosystem. We are not the policeman of internet in Malaysia. That role probably will be by Malaysia MCMC. If possible, we would like to look at ourselves more as the fireman in Malaysia, okay? So if there are incidents, if there are cases, so we assist the people, we assist the companies in terms of cybersecurity matters, and mostly more on the technical assistance. Overall, we have 5 pillars. We look at the responsive services. When an incident has happened, how do we react to it? And of course, there is always the advisory part, the proactive services. outreach and capability development, training of people, strategic engagement, studies, what needs to be done. And where I come in is the industry development and research as well. So in terms of the responsive services, the key one is our digital forensic services. We have our lab. We have done a lot of high profile cases. And I think sufficient to say that over the years, we have assisted the government in key criminal investigations as well. Yeah? And where we started is CERT, and under CERT, we have our Cyber 999 services. So if there are any issues, any problems with your internet, or if you believe that you've been a victim or hacked, just come over to our Cyber 999, and we will take actions on that. Of course, we have our malware research. We do a lot of development. We've done product development. CMAP stands for Coordinated Malware Eradication and Remediation Platform. This is interesting, okay? This is where we do a lot of assistance to the industry. Our evaluation and assessment, we have common criteria. We do product testing. We assist the industry through life cycle, security software life cycle. I guess overall, over the years, we have done almost 50 plus product certification and evaluation. And we do cryptography. We have our cryptography development, and of course, the randomness test. I think we are among the first FIPS lab in this region as well. In terms of certification and compliance, we have developed some tools that looks into governance, risk and compliance. We are very strong in ISMS. And on top of the common criteria, which is ISO 15408, we have also developed business continuity management system, and we have come up with pen test service provider certification programs as well. Over the years, we have trained, I think, almost 8 to 10,000 people on cybersecurity. Well, when I say train, what I mean here is more on the awareness. We have touched more than 10,000, I guess, students, teachers, parents, when it comes to cybersecurity. Part of the program that we have is what we call CyberSafe, cyber security awareness for everyone. And on top of that, we have also developed our education scheme, where we call it Global ACE, Global Accredited Cybersecurity Education. And we are looking at certifying training providers, certifying training programs out there, as well as coming up with our own programs. The whole idea here is to make cybersecurity more affordable and accessible for everyone. In terms of strategic study and engagement, I guess there are always reports. I think Scott will know what I'm talking about. There are always reports that we need to submit to the government, what is happening, what's going on, the key things. Well, I mean, this is something that is always ongoing, yeah. And I'm going to jump to a little bit on the industry development. Well, unfortunately, this year we could not have our annual conference. Okay, we call it CSMAs, Awards, Conference, and Exhibition. And we were of the school of thought. Well, you know, there are a lot of virtual events. And since our friends MDEC is already doing a virtual event, we will just ride on that. Hopefully the COVID situation improves and we could physically meet next year. It will be great to touch base and you know, carry on our life as usual, hopefully. We have our CCP program, Cybersecurity Collaboration Program. Happy to say that we have almost 100 plus companies, from as big as DXC, Honeywell, that are our partners, to as small as Malaysian companies, 4 or 5 people. The whole idea here is we are looking at how to make Malaysia a leading country when it comes to cybersecurity. Okay, and last but not least, we do data recovery through our cyber clinic. Well, in terms of achievement, I think we have strings of them. We've been champion for the ASEAN Capture the Flag This was organized by Australian Cybersecurity Center last year. We've been accredited by Interpol for the assistance and the expertise that we have accorded to them in terms of digital forensics. And we've been conducting cyber drills for both APCERT and, of course, our certification in education, the Global ACE, was a winner this year in the World Summit in the WSIS. Well, a little bit more on that, I guess, should be enough to talk about awards and recognition. Among the leadership that we have is common criteria certification. We are one of the few countries in the world that can certify products under ISO 15408. We've been the permanent secretariat for OIC countries over the last almost 10 years. And of course, the other key roles that we have done there. Happy to say that our cybersecurity ranking among the ITU used to be third, but dropped a little bit to number 8. Not too bad, I guess. Hopefully this year we are able to pick it up again, because I think we scored rather badly when it came to the organizational and legal aspects. So hopefully this year we could be back in the top 5. Not that this matters more, but I guess it just says a lot on what the government is doing in terms of cybersecurity for the nation. Yeah. And just to share a little bit, we have resolved more than 10,000 cases since our inception. The number here is a bit old, not 84 companies, but I think now I have almost 106 companies that are in our collaboration program. And in terms of return of investment, we have contributed back to the country more than 1 billion ringgit. And okay, over here I have 8,000 trained workers, trained knowledge workers. My apologies. We have reached 170,000 citizens through our awareness campaigns. Yeah, so not too bad, yeah, guys. And just to share a little bit on the last part, this is what is ongoing now, and it is happening. Some of the partners that we have signed either MOUs or agreement with them. Number 2 here is ITRAMAS. ITRAMAS is our cybersecurity collaboration program. They have set up a Russia-Malaysia high-tech center, and this is not just for cybersecurity, but it's also for other high technology, for example, aerospace and maritime as well. High-Tech Padu is a Malaysian company. They have just launched their next generation SOC, and we are working with them for the immigration project as well. Okay, AppsCard, this is interesting. This is among the first companies, even in the world, yeah, to have a biometric computer on card technology. This is interesting because they have a microprocessor on the card with 1 megabyte memory chip and 32 gigabyte of storage. So interesting. We are looking into making this card as the Malaysian identity card, but of course, still work in progress. Yeah. As I mentioned just now, we do data recovery, and we are partnering with a Korean company for our data recovery. This is what I'm extremely proud of. We have signed MOUs with DXC Technologies, with HGC and Honeywell. This is an ongoing commitment that we have, not just with Malaysians, but I guess with all international, multinational companies as well. Okay, so that is basically what Cybersecurity Malaysia in a nutshell. Yeah. So let's move on to our discussion here, and please allow me a few minutes to introduce my esteemed colleagues and partners here. First of all, one of our panelists, Mr. Amitabh Srivastava. Well, a good friend, a seasoned professional with more than 25 years of experience all across the IT domain. Yeah? And he has been in the cybersecurity industry for more than 10 years and has done a lot of SOC implementation across Asia Pacific. Worked extensively across various markets in Asia Pacific, from designing and implementing SOC with a master's degree in business management from University of Washington. Right now with Abyres, Amit is working on building Malaysia's first fully integrated threat-centric security operation center with a unique system for complete customization and tailored options. Okay. Next is Mr. Jin Tang. Mr. Jin is from Rackspace. Jin is the head of professional services and onboarding delivery at Rackspace Technology, Asia Pacific, Japan. Jin oversees the company's portfolio of professional services in the region, working with customers to deliver bespoke projects that produce seamless transitions to target platforms or to public cloud, which improve their business and IT agility. Jin is also responsible for defining Rackspace Technologies' professional services, strategies, and offerings in Asia, and prioritizes listening to customer businesses and their challenges. Jin has brought this passion and expertise in multi-cloud computing, including big data, to life at Rackspace Technology over the last 9 years, working in various roles, including systems engineer, senior solutions architect, head of solutions architecture in London, Hong Kong, and now in Singapore. Okay. Next is the most powerful guy among our group here, Scott Jarkoff. Scott is the Senior Threat Intelligence Advisor at Crowdstrike. Okay, this is excellent. Scott focuses on helping customers operationalize and integrate threat intelligence within their organization's security strategy and demonstrating the value of Crowdstrike intelligence capabilities. Scott, I think as you can see in his background, he is based in Tokyo and covers Asia Pacific and Japan. He has more than 20 years of defense-grade security and intelligence experience, serving on a global team and trusted with empowering sales of Crowdstrike intelligence. Before Crowdstrike, okay, allow me to explain a little bit. Scott worked at McAfee in Tokyo as Senior Security Advisor. And before that, okay, Scott was with the US government for more than 20 years and as the Chief of Cybersecurity at the United States Forces in Japan. At USFJ, Scott was responsible for overseeing Department of Defense cybersecurity strategy and situation awareness for the US military components in Japan. Scott is a key player in the United States government and government of Japan bilateral information security consultation, which is a Department of State initiative to increase information sharing and strengthen cybersecurity cooperation between the two countries. Scott was the US co-chair of Information Assurance Working Group and single-handedly reinvigorated stale bilateral relationship between US Department of Defense and Japanese Department of Defense, leading to substantial cybersecurity information sharing, training for the Japanese military, and other initiatives to increase Ministry of Defense capabilities. Awesome, Scott. Okay, next will be Mr. Megat Faisal. Megat is currently the CISO of Bank Muamalat Malaysia. Before that, Megat was a partner executive director at Deloitte Risk Advisory Practices and was leading the technology and data risk services. Megat has more than 19 years of experience in providing cybersecurity, internal audit, IT security, risk management, operational business process assessment, advisory services. I personally have sat in his class to understand more about cybersecurity risk management. Thank you, my sir. Okay, a good teacher there. In addition to all that, okay, Megat specializes in IT project advisory and governance. He has managed numerous projects for clients in the financial and government-linked companies. Megat has provided various services to clients in various industries, including public sector, banking, insurance, oil and gas, public transportation, telecommunication, services, and manufacturing. Okay, guys, that was a mouthful. Let's start, okay? Can I start from the guy furthest from us, Scott? Maybe if you can share with us a little bit what you are doing now and how innovation comes into your daily work, who leads innovation in Crowdstrike. And if I can just ask this question, and I'll try to not repeat it too many times. How does it happen in your company? Is there a structured approach or it is like, Eureka, I found this? Over to you, Scott.
Thank you so very much. So yeah, this is very Very interesting set of questions, so I appreciate that. And I thank you for having me on the panel today. So to kind of just dive right into the questions themselves, I mean, at the end of the day, Crowdstrike is a cloud native company. So basically from day one, I mean, we've, essentially been working apart. So there's no real need for teams of people to necessarily get together in rooms that are, physically in the same location in order to innovate, right? We can conduct or perform innovation through these geographically separated meeting spaces and locations. It's not like the idea of the traditional organization where you need to get people together in order to innovate. And having said that, I mean, there is a certain element of innovation that does require specific processes. So absolutely, that is something that CrowdStrike takes to heart, because we just can't, have, one or two people just say, hey, I'd like to add, capability X, Y, or Z, and let's go ahead and make it happen. And somebody just does it without any, consideration for the scalability issues that may arise as a result of that, or, the potential impact that may have, on a cloud-based solution that ultimately ends up impacting customers all over the globe. So there are absolutely, formalized processes in place, but the heart of the matter is that innovation occurs in a number of ways, right? You get the feature requests that come in from our customers, because at the end of the day, we do serve our customers, and we need to be able to innovate and help our customers continue on that threat intelligence journey, on that cybersecurity journey. And that does require innovation, because as we all know, those of us here on the panel and everyone out there in the audience, we all know that the attackers are out innovating us, or they're at least attempting to out innovate us. And so we need to either be one step ahead of them, or we need to be prepared in order to meet those innovative challenges that they're posing to us. So at the end, I mean, absolutely, our customers are part of that process. We have people internally who are, looking at strategies for innovation that are, 3, 6, 12, 24, 36 months down the line, right? So we have to look at this, short term, midterm, and long term. And this happens, through our customers. This happens through folks internally, specific teams that are designed to look at this, but also folks like myself who are out in the field, our outstanding sales engineering team who is out there on the front lines, our professional services team who is out there, conducting incident response engagements, among other things. So it's, a kind of multifaceted process. There's a part of it, like I said, that is very structured, but then there is also a part of it that is, very unstructured, where you get all these different data points from different groups and different people that somehow make it back into the structured process, which then, ultimately ends up consisting of those meetings that are able to happen in that, rather than that kind of, geographically separated manner. And then we just, make it happen from there. And like, probably like all of us on the, on the session today, we have developers who are able to make those ideas a reality and turn all of that into the innovation that we see coming out of CrowdStrike and probably every other company here on the panel today. But that's, I think, probably a good starting point. So, again, thank you so much for the question.
Thank you, Scott. It's definitely all about dialogue, communication among the peers, the partners, colleagues, getting input from customers. Awesome. Jean, if you could share with us a little bit on what Rackspace is, what Rackspace do, and as what Scott explained, maybe share with us how does innovation happen in Rackspace as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. So again, thank you for having me on the panel today. It's quite an honor to be able to be here. So just a little bit about Rackspace. It's important to be able to contextualize who Rackspace are and what we do. in order to kind of answer that question. So Rackspace itself, we're one of the world's leading professional services and managed services providers for cloud. Put simply, we help organizations transition into cloud like your AWSs, your Azures, and your GCPs. And then we can manage those environments for the customers. So I think it's really fair to say that our success is driven by what our customers want. And as a services company, and to strike directly at that question, as a services company, kind of that innovation and service development process in Rackspace is very much a formal process because we have so many services, we have to deliver those services to our customers, and we term that process the offer management process. It is, as you'd expect, a pretty straightforward process. It consists of things like your business case validation, kind of the design of the service and the offering, and obviously the launch itself. I think to strike at the heart of the question, though, the ideation of those services, the development of those services is very much driven through customer demand and partner demand, and also a big chunk of kind of thought leadership of what we believe our customers need for the future to be successful. So to give you a good example of that and to contextualize against the cybersecurity world, one of our, or at least our first managed security offering, which we launched in 2018, it actually uses the Crowdstrike toolset, which is great. It was driven very much through the demand of our customers needing a security operations center as a service type model, as well as kind of an monitoring and compliance service to meet their ongoing regulation. And since there, 2018 is a very long time in the IT world. We've kind of evolved that variation based on what kind of customers want. So for example, we've got another offshoot of the capability, which exclusively uses kind of cloud native security tools, because we believe that a good proportion of our future customers are going to want kind of an integrated tool set that's pushed down from the cloud providers. So I think it's fair to say that kind of our innovation, fairly straightforward structured approach when it comes to developing and designing services, but very much driven by what our customers need, because it's our customers that kind of define our success.
Thank you, Jean. And I will say so because having read about Rackspace, interesting, it founded in San Antonio, Texas, and it's not like a lot of tech companies come out of San Antonio. And over the years, how you've been managing to compete against the giants, Amazon, and now, like Alibaba, Huawei, all the big boys are coming in. Interesting. If I can now move to Megat, from the user side, from a banking perspective, Megat, how would you look into cybersecurity innovation in your financial sector? And of course, if you could share with us a little bit in terms of some of the regulations that Bank Negara is imposing, and is that affecting the innovation? Is that affecting the security there? Well, I mean, too many questions. I leave it to you, bro.
Thank you. General. So I'm with the bank. I think this is my 4th month since I left Deloitte and joined Muamalat. So for Muamalat, like what Encik Noor rightly put, I think for all banks in Malaysia, I think we need to comply with our regulators, Bank Negara's RMIT, and as just recently, I think fresh from the oven earlier this month, we also participating in more like cyber resilient maturity assessment as an industry and so on. So if you see the trend here for financial institution is that in terms of cybersecurity is a key critical item that top of everyone's mind, whether it's the regulators, whether the board, whether our management, as well as our stakeholders, the general public and so on. Because if you see with this COVID happening in 2020, since March for our country with the lockdown and everything, physical face-to-face interaction is now kept at very minimal. So many organizations, not necessarily banks, would need to basically innovate in terms of how to reach out to their potential customers and also current customers in for day-to-day transaction queries and potentially financial assistance and so on. So a lot of product now is being pushed through digitally, right? So with these, if you can see that for example, for Bank Muamalat, for the past month, like we have been launching, for example, you can use the QR code to pay for EasyCap, and we also been plastering a lot of QR codes all over the place, where you can basically apply a loan just by scanning the QR code, and we call MAP, application platform, to make it easier for us to interact directly with our customers. So with all this kind of innovation to ease interaction with the customers, there's always risk, right? Because in this COVID period, you can see all the cyber threats are continuously increasing, right? I think when I see my monthly reporting, the threat numbers are really something, it's tripling every month and so on. So any innovation comes with all these threats. And typically when we push a lot of things digitally, there's a lot of fraudster, there's a lot of scammers try to leverage all these things and find weaknesses. So for our security team, we always, as much as possible, need to be on point and on top of the game, and look out for what kind of technologies available to assist us to be continuously secure, because security for financial institution is very key, because it is basically for trust and customers' confidence, and as well and the regulators are looking into all this seriously. Yeah.
Great. Well, after all, you are holding on to your customers' money, isn't it? So it is not just about compliance; it's also about the trust that the customers have given to you.
Correct. Yeah, since you mentioned the word compliance, is very interesting, because I've been talking about this. Compliance mentality in cybersecurity is totally wrong, because in any like our regulated kind of industry, it's always about compliance mindset. But the thing is, we need to shift that into maturity mindset, because that's the only way that you can continuously, enhance your maturity to make sure you're secure. Because the mentality, when you view as compliance, right? The Asian mentality or the Malaysian mentality is that once I comply, that's about it. I move on, right? So that's a danger here. So rather than continuously enhancing your maturity so that you're on point and keep up to date with whatever threats that you have. So that is more important, I think, the changing of the mindset, compliance to maturity. Yeah.
Totally agree with that. Mr. Amit, you want to share with us your thoughts, a little bit of what Abyres is doing, and share with us your ideas on your current project, the Threat-Centric Security Operations Center, and how did you come about, thinking about it, the innovation process as well. Thank you.
First of all, I need to really thank Megat for bringing that out. It is high time somebody said that, Megat. I think compliance-based structure to an operational maturity model-centric architecture is, I think, what is the need of the hour is. Thank you for bringing that up. I think Anwar will agree that we've had this debate and discussion for very long, that by design, if you look at cybersecurity and last probably 22 years of cybersecurity, innovation in cybersecurity has been very reactive. So something has happened, and based on that, then we are trying to build something out. And because it is by design very reactive, the compliance-based architecture has been the core of any build-out. So even if you look at old security operations centers, they have primarily been very compliance-centric, very operational-centric, and never people have actually looked at a pure maturity indexed model. And I think the reason for that is that majority of these cybersecurity setups, which are bigger and larger, they are more towards trying to be anti this, anti that. So malware becomes a reality. So we are talking about anti malware. Something else becomes a reality. So trying to create a system around it to prepare a protective network. I think what we have been doing, being a solutions company in cyberspace in Malaysia, is trying to actually understand two core things from an innovation point of view. One, something which has been seeded by companies like CrowdStrike, RiskIQ, is how proactively can you look at security? And if you cannot look at security proactively, then in a reactive world, you're always trying to do something which is after the fact. So in a post-truth scenario, you are always trying to do something which is called as, oh, something has happened, let me try and do something else. But with Symmetrics, the Abyres product that we are now rolling out, we are taking the, I call it the extreme plus, which companies like CrowdStrike, ThreatStop, many of them innovators out there actually did, which was trying to actually read trends, trends in advance so that you can actually have a feed architecture which can actually help the end customer. And this we are amplifying in terms of trying to build a fully integrated security operations center, which is going to be one of the core offerings from Malaysia to the world. We are almost there, as Anwar has seen it. But there are a lot of elements that we are bringing, and that's primarily, I think somebody very beautifully pointed out, I think it was Jean, being very customer centric in terms of the approach. It is a beautiful management word and line, and I think all of us love it, love to say it. But at times, as Steve Jobs said, customers do not know what they want, and it is so true in cybersecurity, because what you don't know, you cannot innovate on. So in our case, what we are trying to do is to understand the pain from the perspective of what hurt when you got attacked, and trying to innovate on that. Over to you, Anwar.
Thank you, Amit. Okay, Jean, we are going to have a debate here. I would like to open it to both Jean and Scott. Your comments, please, on what Mr. Megat and Mr. Amit have said. Maybe we can start with Jean first.
Look, I agree wholeheartedly with what both Megat and Amit have said, right? I mean, cybersecurity has to move from a view of being kind of a cost to an investment, right? It's an investment into your organization, an investment into preventing a cybersecurity attack. But also what we're finding, and I've got a funny story about this that one of my team was able to tell me, is it can actually help you save costs, right? In his case, he found that he was working with a Malaysian-based organization that was looking to deploy an MPLS network or an extension to their MPLS to increase their bandwidth. And they also needed a bit of a cybersecurity review of their environment. And from that review, they actually found that the bandwidth that was being used was actually being used for Netflix. The employees were actually using Netflix within the organization. And so by actually kind of just stopping that traffic, they were actually able to recognize they don't need that additional bandwidth. And they're actually able to save significant costs. I think it's about 30,000 USD a month. So, with that in mind, I think that the key here is that, look, people need to start viewing cybersecurity as something that needs to be proactive, that is an investment into their business as opposed to a cost, which is a mentality that a lot of people have, not just within Malaysia, but globally as well. And by doing that, you can get the right investment, you can get the right investment to upskill people, train people. You can fight threats that are unknown as opposed to known threats. So absolutely agree with the statements that both Amit and Megat have said.
Yeah, I would agree. I can't find anything that either Amit or Megat said that I would disagree with. At the end of the day, kind of like Jean was saying, cybersecurity needs to be looked at as an enabler, right? It can't be looked at as something that is just going to prevent people from getting the job done. And that's, I think, something that we all too often see is that security is looked at as something that is a roadblock. It's going to prevent people from being able to do their jobs. And that does nobody any good. There's no way for us to protect environments when the average everyday user who relies on the organizations to provide a safe computing environment, if they look at security as being a roadblock into helping them achieve whatever goals they're trying to achieve in the interest of serving the organization. So it's extremely important that security not only help protect the environment, but also enable people to get their jobs done. And kind of like what Gene was saying with that anecdote about Netflix, that's one great example of how security can potentially help enable people, because if so much of your bandwidth is being consumed by non-mission critical traffic, people viewing Netflix, people wasting time on YouTube, and there's people that need to say pull down important data through repositories that are scattered across the internet. Well, that's that's creating problems, and people can't get their job done. So sometimes there's kind of unintended consequences that are positive benefits of security. Outside of that, I would also stress, and this is something that I stress in my day-to-day interactions with customers, is this need to be proactive. The idea of being reactive is just not viable anymore. We really need to look at security from a proactive point of view, understand who all those threat actors are and the capabilities that they wield, and be prepared in advance in order to protect your network from those types of attacks. Minimize the risk from those attacks to the maximum extent that you can. And that's all about a proactive look, because if you're coming at this reactive, it's too late, and your crown jewels are likely already being sold on the dark web, or they've already been monetized, or at worst, the ransomware has been deployed enterprise wide, and now your entire organization is disrupted from being able to conduct day-to-day business. So yeah, at the end of the day, the long story short, I completely agree with what both guys said. Thank you so much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these are always the key issues that we are looking at. People are always being reactive, and they will only call us. They will only come to CSM, Cybersecurity Malaysia, once they've been attacked or they've been compromised. And it's all about cyber hygiene. It's all about keeping yourself clean, and to touch a little bit on the local scene here. I would like to try to see if I can get input from either Megat or Amit. The Malaysian government have launched the cybersecurity strategy. That was, I believe, on October 12th, plus with an allocation of almost 2 billion ringgit on making the nation more cybersecurity prepared. And what are your thoughts about this? I'm sure both of you must have read the document, and if you could share with us, is this going to make the country more cyber matured, or are we looking at just compliance? I mean, I would like to pick on what you have said, Megat, and I think this is excellent. Where are we heading if we look at the cybersecurity strategy?
So I think based on the document, there's few interesting areas that I think a lot of people that can benefit, especially for Malaysian companies and also cybersecurity professionals here, because I think Pillar 2 and Pillar 3 is focusing on industry development as well as the talent part, the capacity building, the awareness and education. So I think for me, as the buyer of products, right? I'm particularly interested in this because what I can say is that for Malaysia, we are in a unique situation where in any type of job, we always have the advantage where we speak good English. We have multilingual workforce, and then I think we are competitive in a way. So this is something that I think the country can harness, and especially with COVID happening, is something that we can take the initiative to basically develop further the local industry and also harness the potential in terms of which company that can really innovate and with potential to go global. And also on the talent side as well, I think with COVID happening and globally a lot of people losing job or getting pay cuts and whatnot, and we have a stream of graduating students that go coming to the market soon, right? With all these uncertainties and so on. So I think organization going forward, especially people looking to fill cybersecurity vacancies. I think as industry, as the country, we need to relook in terms of how we evaluate candidates for recruitment. Because what I found for my past 19 years as consultant and now in a bank, when I conduct interview, I always found in terms of cybersecurity, the one that very technically competent is always the one that with least certification or least qualification. It's always interests me, right?
Least
But
qualified.
yeah, least qualified,
Okay.
but most technically competent somehow, because I think maybe they are self-developed kind of skills or whatnot. But that interests me. But the thing is, it's always a barrier for Malaysian or in Asia where you still employ people with set requirements of qualification and whatnot. Then you can employ them. That sort of thing. So I think this with COVID happening, I think we need to still change that mindset of how we treat this cybersecurity workforce, the new cybersecurity workforce. Yeah, so that's my
So
main focus when I look at the two is the pillar 3 and
yeah.
pillar 4. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So basically, what you're saying here is we do have the talent in Malaysia, but the
Yep.
question is how do we measure them, not from their certifications, but through their capabilities.
Yes, exactly.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I
So,
segregate these two, because I
sure. Come in.
extend
Yeah,
on
please get in.
Megat's
Get in.
point, and I think Scott and Jean sitting in Singapore and Tokyo, and Scott coming from US and with the government background, he will understand this much better, because I think both of us have seen this very closely. Now, here are, in fact, you also, Anwar, you studied there in US. So here are the two things. Okay. First is, let me take an example of a civil engineer. Okay. So a civil engineer by qualification or an architect by qualification knows how to design the bridge or the building. Okay. But he may not have the skill to do the masonry work required to build the wall or put the right elevation. And here is the problem in cybersecurity. You look at all the reports from last 10 years, they don't say manpower shortage, they say skills shortage.
Mm.
And why are we saying skills shortage? Because the issue is not of designing, because in a reactive setup, you are not designing. You are trying to solve something which has happened. So it's a post-truth scenario. If that be true, you are looking at skills which are not in qualifications. You are looking at skills which are in implementation. That's the reason, Megat, you find people who are least qualified, no certification, doing extremely well. And in fact, in our little experience of all the four of us, the best talent in cybersecurity doesn't sit in US, doesn't sit in the countries like India or China. You know where it sits? It sits in Russia. It sits in Tunisia. It sits in countries that you can't even name properly. The reason is they concentrate on building skills, and we concentrate on building qualifications. So it's having a master's in cybersecurity. Trust me, I, you, Scott, or Glenn, we are not going to hire that person because the role requirement is not to design the infrastructure build. The role requirement is to protect the infrastructure. And that's my first dissonance with the cybersecurity policy of Malaysia, because it's again talking about building qualifications. You know, there are no less than 7 universities in Malaysia who have cybersecurity programs.
Correct.
Assume 7 universities are training 50 people on an average. Just I'm being less, okay?
Yeah.
You're talking about huge amount of people going out in the industry, and then we say they don't get jobs. And I see my problem is the policy still doesn't address the issue of skill. Sorry, Anwar, that's my take on it.
No. This is good. This is good. Scott, give me your thoughts, brother.
No, I actually agree with Amit here. I think it's important to focus on skills more than it is to focus on the qualifications or certifications. You know, as mentioned, I come from, you know, background with the U.S. government. There is a strong focus on arming the security folks in the U.S. Department of Defense, which is really my, you know, main background, is arming them with skills in order to be able to protect networks, not just reactively, because quite obviously you need to be able to reactively, you know, respond in the event that some kind of event occurs. But you also need to be able to think about ways to proactively protect these very mission critical government networks. And so it's focused on skills, and that's something that I think like the governments of you know, countries around the world that are very skilled in security, that's what they focus on. They focus more on getting people trained on skills than they do on ensuring that they have a master's degree in cybersecurity. Now, having said that, there is let's see, how do I want to characterize this? I'm not going to say there's not a need. I mean, there is nothing wrong with imposing some form of certifications on the workforce, like ensuring that maybe certain levels of access require certain certifications, because that basically demonstrates that that person has put in the right amount of time studying, time working on, and, you know, experience with a particular discipline within security. And so I don't want to discount that, you know, just off the bat that certifications are bad, but I think as a general rule, I'm a much more a firm believer in the idea of skill building as opposed to, you know, what I would amount to as saying resume building. Because you know, in my time in the U.S. Department of Defense, there's always been and there always will be that skill building piece, but there was a time where there was a strong focus on certification. And the U.S. government actually would pay for your certification. So if you think about, say, for example, like CISSP, which is if you go to like an ISC squared, you know, class, that's very expensive. So the U.S. Department of Defense would pay for that, and they would also pay for your certification exam, especially if you passed. Even if you didn't pass, they would pay. But nevertheless, what that ended up doing was it ended up just breeding a lot of people being very interested in getting the certification so they could pad the resume. So when they get out of the military, now they have all these certifications, you know, built up, and they have, you know, in their signature line, they have, you know, like 16 different acronyms that follow after their name, but they don't have the skills to back it up. And so this is why you know, a firm believer in skill building, but also at the same time, there does need to be a certain amount of certifications to kind of you know, help, let's see, what's the right way? Just help demonstrate that people have put in the right time.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because there is a question here, and I think that covers it. How can we get a balance between good amount of awareness on cybersecurity issues and the internet economy ecosystem, and that will give us an impact on our future life journey. So I guess probably this is one of those guys that is about looking for a job, looking for a position, and asking, how much of cybersecurity skills do I need against the certification? You know, like, how do we draw the line? Okay, I hope you don't mind, because the guy that's going to be hiring many people is going to be Megat. You know, he's the bank.
Yes.
So Megat, if I can, you know, shoot you this question, and you brought it up. Okay. How do
Yeah,
you balance
unfortunately.
between? Okay, over to you, man.
So talking about balance of this, okay, let me just read the question again. Yeah. So again, it goes back to, because when we small, people always say, when you go bigger, doing good things in the future, you need to be street smart, right? But nowadays, the street is the internet, the cyberspace, right? Your self awareness need to be heightened, because I think if we see all the trends happening for the past since March, for Malaysia perspective, COVID period from March to now, there's so many things happening, scam, hacks and whatnot, right? In many forms. So what the new batch of graduates, or school leavers, if you want to enter the workforce, and you need to be cyber smart, right? You need to be self-aware. You need to be you need to be able to pick. I think because nowadays almost all kids have some form of access to internet through mobile or through laptops of their parents or their own laptops and whatnot. And and believe me, I got 3 kids. Two of them just got laptop in their own room, and they did not getting out of the room until they need to eat or need to do something outside the house, right? So with all this kind of thing, right? And now we are restricted to our home because no school, you can't really go out easily and whatnot. Uh, these kids typically tend to develop knowledge through the YouTubes and whatnot, and they picking up all these things. So the way I look at it is, if you are cyber smart, you need to be able to utilize your time in this challenging period, and basically look at what is out there. You see, everyone are desperate at the moment. People are losing jobs. Now they turn into retail in many forms, whether it's online, whether yeah, selling food on the street or delivering food, all those things, right? So these things basically provide opportunities as well as threats. So I think the way, if you basically at a juncture where you have to decide, okay, what I have to do next. So obviously cyber is the future for now, I would say, because in any form of business transaction will definitely be digital, in digital way. So this is the future. So I think it goes also to, since we're talking about the national, the Malaysian cybersecurity strategy, we also need to basically inculcate that in our way of life. So that's the kids, like what Cybersecurity Malaysia been doing. I think you do all these outreach program, but it need to be heightened a bit. Need to be enhanced further, because everything is done digitally now. So this developing the cyber smart awareness need to be done from the from young kids, so that when they are ready for workforce, whether they just a school leaver or a university graduates, they are ready, they are aware, then they can really see what are the opportunity outside, in terms of joining an organization or creating their own business digitally. Because now I think the barrier is very minimal. for anyone to start a business in digital world, right? But the risk is increasingly high because you are exposed to many scammers, you are exposed to a lot of risk. Yeah. So this is something that I would say as a potential employer, this is what I see, that the necessary skill set that these people need to have. Yeah.
I like the analogy that Megat have provided, that this is the street, okay, and I think when we talk about the street, is actually the network. And Jean, this is where I want to come to you. I think, Jean, the street is full of bad guys. So as a cloud provider, what are you going to do, man? I mean, to keep the street clean of all these bad elements, all the bad guys out there?
Well, I mean, what we provide is services for customers that leverage cloud, right? So whether those customers be on AWS, on Microsoft Azure or GCP, we're supporting customers on those platforms and making sure that they're executing well. So in that sense, us bringing customers to the cloud, what we do is make sure that those customers who have very little knowledge about cloud, have very little knowledge about cybersecurity, we're making sure that they've got a specific baseline set to launch them for success. So we're very operationally focused. So on day one, for example, when it comes to aspects like architecture, making sure that your environment is architected correctly with the right let's call it VNets and VPCs in place, for example, we make sure that that customer has that great baseline to start with. Subsequent to that, once a customer has that environment architected well, then we start putting the operational components in. For example, some of our services are associated with attaching the right tool set into the customer's environment. So, for example, the Crowdstrike tool set, and making sure they've got a SOC available and monitoring their environment on an ongoing basis. If they have compliance requirements, part of our capabilities are to ensure that we're monitoring that environment to continually meet the compliance needs. I think it was Amit that said it previously, and in fact, no, it was Megat that said it previously, that compliance isn't a one-time thing. It's around constantly monitoring, making sure that you're meeting compliance and then being proactive and securing against future threats and so on and so forth. So our services are very much intended to prevent kind of the fights within the street that you put it, Anwar, right, and really setting that customer up so that as they go down that street, they're not they've got everything they need in their tool set and their toolkit to prevent a fight occurring. So I think that's where we help kind of the customers along that journey.
Scott, if I can bring this thing up, I think over the last couple of years, CrowdStrike has done a lot of good work in terms of detecting all the threats out there. And this brings us back to this issue of talent. How do you recruit talent, and how do you retain that talent in CrowdStrike?
Yeah, that's always a tough prospect, right? How do you find the best of the best, and then how do you entice them to stay where you're at, right, or where they're at? And there's I think a number of ways to do all this. At the core, I think what we're looking for, it goes back to kind of what we talked about earlier. It goes back to finding talent that has the right skill set. It's like we said earlier, the certifications do hold, a certain amount of weight, but at the end of the day, if you're certified, but you don't have the skills, then, I mean, you're not able to conduct the analysis that's needed, or, help customers understand what the problems are, or whatever the case may be. So we're looking for people that have the right talent. We're looking for people who understand the threats, who can articulate those threats and articulate the right solutions. And that comes, at the end of the day, with experience. We're looking for, on the one hand, for the people who are very experienced in security, who have been, for lack of a better way of saying it, for those who have been down in the trenches, who have been fighting the good fight, right? And that helps provide context when they're meeting with customers, and they can, you know, use anecdotes from their time down in the trenches to help customers understand that, hey, look, I understand the pain that you're going through. I've been there, I've done that, and these are the solutions that I've put in place before, and here's how CrowdStrike can help you with that. So it's about finding talent that has that experience and that has a wide range of experience, but also finding people that are open-minded, right? Not just stuck in a particular discipline. You know, many years ago, cybersecurity was, you know, probably just, you know, a few feet wide and a few inches deep. But nowadays it's, you know, miles wide and, you know, exceedingly deep. There's just so many different aspects to security nowadays that you need to find people who aren't just interested in being stuck in that one box. They have to be able to come out of their comfort zone and look at things in new and innovative ways, right? And that's, I think, important also. So that's something that we also look for: people who are skilled, but people who are very open-minded towards new and exciting technologies. Because what you see with CrowdStrike today may not necessarily be what CrowdStrike has, you know, 3, 5, 10 years down the line. We have to evolve. As I mentioned earlier, the attackers are evolving. They are constantly innovating, and we as a company need to be able to innovate and stay ahead of them. So that's what we're doing in order to, you know, hire talent. In order to retain talent, it's all about, you know, taking care of your people. I mean, the way that you retain talent is making sure that your talent is, you know, taken care of, and that's comes in a variety of ways, right? It doesn't necessarily translate to having the, you know, highest salaries or whatnot. There's, you know, other intangibles that are just as important, right? You know, having flexibility in terms of working hours or in terms of working locations, providing, you know, different benefits packages, and also it comes along with having access to some of the most exciting technology out there, which I think, you know, personally, CrowdStrike has some of the most you know, innovative technology that's out in cybersecurity today. And then personally on the intelligence side, I'm a huge fan of it. So that's, you know, kind of some of those intangibles, is being able to have access to that. And so I think all these components put together is, you know, how you find the right talent, and then how you also retain the right talent. And that's, you know, something that is near and dear to our hearts at CrowdStrike.
I agree. I mean, I think if we look at it, there are actually a couple of topics that we are talking about today. It's not just about cybersecurity. It's also about people. It's about human development. How do we get more jobs? You know, I mean, in these difficult COVID times, how are we going to do product development? How are we going to be hiring people? I mean, you want to share a little bit with what your experience is, you know, where you are now and in previously, in terms of product development, in terms of innovation. I guess, again, the topic here is both, yeah, cybersecurity as well as talent, people development, and again, economy as well. Amit, over to you.
Okay, so let me actually take the question from the question that you asked earlier, which was the economic impact of cybersecurity, and then lead it through what Scott was answering in terms of manpower, and link it back to the cybersecurity policy, your favorite area. So first of all, I think a few things are happening around there. The COVID uncle is a reality. So let's just realize for a fact that the impact of COVID on economies around the world is tremendous. The GDP will drop across countries, and it's a reality. It's a given. I think every country is reporting a very, very low GDP growth, if not negative. Clubbed with that, the second impact, which I believe is going to be, is the changing scenario of the IT market. Forget about cybersecurity, of the IT market. The first is 5G is a reality. It is going to exist. No matter how much of pushback a lot of countries have shown in the past, courtesy Huawei and the likes of it, 5G is a reality. And now I hear about 6G. Please don't ask me about it. There are no technical details to discuss. The second thing which is going to happen, and which is a great techno-commercial economic impact, is the integration of IT and OT. Now, this convergence is happening after almost 30 years of our existence in this industry. Now, IT has existed in isolation, OT has existed in isolation. We are going to see a full-time conversion of this. And because of that, the economic equations, the organizational setup, and the existence of organizations and new type of organizations will emerge. Last but not the least is the quantum computing part, which I don't want to spend a lot of time on because I think I will leave it to the scientists to spend a lot of time on it because there's a lot of debate and discussion around. But coming back to the COVID uncle and what it has done, especially to the recruitment market. Now, before my current avatar, I was the CEO of a company which was a Swiss company, and one of my biggest challenges recruiting across Asia. Japan, I never recruited, Scott, so Japan gets a go. But recruitment across Asia was the CV looks beautiful. All the technologies that you want will be in the CVs, if not more. When you actually do a brass tack interaction across the table or through problem equations, giving them something to resolve or trying them to actually respond to a problem, the dissonance that you see from qualifications to skills is that valley is too big, and it's often very painful to see it. It's a reality. Now, I think I was following through all the questions which have been there. How do we bridge this? Now, we have been detailing the problem, but is there a solution? I think the biggest solution lies in the fact that it took US a lot of time to realize that qualification is not equal to skills. Israel realized it very, very early. Countries like even some countries in South America realized it very early that qualification is not equal to skills. Russia has realized it full time. If you go to their setups, they are more skill oriented. Now, skill in our part of the world, and Megat and Anwar will agree, and I think Scott would have seen, lies in the vocational education domain. So when we say skill development, suddenly it goes towards vocational development. So it's carpentry, it's masonry, all part of vocational development. But I think time has come for somebody to actually give a big heads up and also kudos to Cybersecurity Malaysia starting something which now can be elevated to skill enhancement, which is their education initiative, their training initiative. I'm not sure everybody is aware, but they do a string of trainings which are not focused on qualifications. They are focused on skills. And I think that enhancement is something very pivotal. And I would have loved to see that as a part of the policy. Sorry, Anwar, I don't see it in the policy document. Something which we have, we should make it much better. And that is something I don't see. From a purely innovation perspective, I think a lot of innovation lies there, and there is an opportunity to innovate. How do you actually bridge that gap? Because qualifications exist, and every year when I see a report from Gartner and the likes of it that there is manpower shortage, I actually cry and laugh at the same time because it's not manpower shortage. It is the skill shortage, which is troubling us for ages. And it's not the new thing which has happened. And this skill shortage, nobody has actually addressed, except I have to give credit to a lot of governments, especially US government, who actually took this initiative that we are going to actually invest on skills. And they did actually spend on skills a lot. So did Israel and the likes of it. I don't know all the countries, so please pardon me for that. But yes, to answer the question in one line, the opportunity for innovation, Chianwar, lies in ensuring that skill enhancement, which we already have to some degree, gets further expanded.
Well, interesting. I mean, this brings us to, I guess, all this issue of certification, skills. Innovation is not something that you can teach in university.
Correct.
Yep.
How do you get innovation? I can't go to MIT and get a master's degree in innovation. And likewise, you know, how do I become a programmer? How do I learn coding? Yes, I can go to university to be a coder, but until you join the guys that are developing and you join a team, then you realize coding is all about. So I think there are a lot of questions here. Some I think we will be able to answer from the discussion that we had. And I mean, you brought up interesting point that is personal to my heart. 5G, 6G, and I look at the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, any thoughts about this? You know, I mean, where are we heading with AI, with big data? Can I start with you, Gene? Because cloud is definitely for IR. What are your thoughts about it, and where are we heading with this? Thank you.
So yes, cloud is definitely one of those emerging technologies. So is big data, and so is kind of automation and DevOps. And it's funny because all of those, they're not mutually exclusive. They all intersect with each other, and so does cybersecurity, right? So what we're seeing is that with our ability to process more data on new platforms like cloud, you know, we're able to get more insights. Now, if we actually intersect that with cybersecurity, there is so much data within cybersecurity that if you kind of leverage the big data tool sets, and there's a number of organizations, including Crowdstrike, for example, that are using kind of big data technologies like Hadoop, like Spark, for example, to get greater insights into kind of security threats. And that kind of plays into a lot of that proactive conversation that we had before. Another really interesting thing that, particularly when it comes to cloud and big data, because you've got so much processing power to be able to process a huge amount of data and store a huge amount of data, is the ability to actually start contextualizing a lot of that security, those cybersecurity threats against the verticals, right? So with that information, with the analytics that goes on, now we're able to start seeing a lot more threats in the context of, say, insurance. You know, what is, for example, you know, a scenario where a person or what is kind of some analytics processes which are actually going to indicate that that person's going to be a threat in the future, right? So one of the great things about kind of that intersection of cloud data and kind of all that automation is that it's giving us greater insights, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity, and that can actually be verticalized now, right? So we're starting to move into that field of seeing more insights and seeing that against a particular vertical, particular sector.
Okay, Scott, if I can get some feedback, what is your opinion about all this new development coming in from artificial intelligence? I guess maybe Internet of Things, you know, that will be of interest. How are we going to get some intelligence on IoT side?
Yeah, I think the idea of, you know, all this, you know, these different technologies that are not mutually exclusive is, I think, a very interesting prospect. One thing that I'm a little bit concerned with, you know, in particular with artificial intelligence and machine learning and all of this, and this isn't exactly a perfect analogy, but one thing that I'm a little bit concerned with is, like, you know, think back to the movie, or, you know, it actually came from the book Minority Report, where we're, you know, basically, you know, convicting people before they've actually even, you know, performed any malicious activity, right? And so that's something I think is a little bit concerning to me with all the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, is that it needs to be balanced with, you know, the human element as well. There needs to be, you know, humans involved in this process, because, you know, machines only work on the data that's fed into the machines. They don't have all the, you know, context that we as humans have. Certainly, we as humans are missing components of this as well, right? So that's why it has to be it's like a very delicate balance between the two. So I'm a big fan of innovation. I've always, you know, been interested in technology. and the idea of artificial intelligence and machine learning and how it's going to affect our future, I think, is extremely important, but it also needs to be looked at very carefully, right? Because like I said, that minority report like situation where we're convicting people and where basically saying that some country or some group of people are doing something malicious before they have even done that malicious act is I think a reality that we're at some point ultimately going to face in some way, shape, or form. We're facing it today, right, with a certain amount of potential false positives that the machine learning is coming back saying, hey, this may not necessarily in reality be something malicious, but the computers, for lack of a better way of saying it, the big brains in the sky are basically saying, hey, yeah, this is malicious. So it needs to be balanced. But again, I'm a big fan of the idea of machine learning. Just it needs to be balanced with that human element as well. And I think going forward, we understand that to a certain extent. But we need to be cautious and take a much more methodical approach. Don't let things just kind of run out of control. And not to be like a naysayer or anything, and not to use another movie as an example, but I mean, I think we've all seen this in Hollywood, and it's quite obviously these are sensationalized to sell movie tickets. But I mean, I think the underlying premise is still something that could potentially happen. Think about the basic premise of the Terminator series, or think about the basic premise of the Matrix. I mean, at the end of the day, this is ultimately technology out of control, where we've created artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms that have been able to usurp our own capabilities and our own human power. So again, I work for a cloud native company who's very reliant on machine learning and artificial intelligence, and we take that very seriously. But again, we also have our Intel analysts touching everything that we do, right? So there is always a human component to this. And I think as we move forward, I can't stress this enough, that there needs to be a delicate balance between humans and technology in order for this to really and truly be successful.
I guess one easy example that we can always talk about where the internet has gone wrong is the deep web. I think as much as we love internet, we love our social media. What has social media done to certain elections? How have social media changed some countries as well? And for me personally, I guess people might remember there was this pedophile case a couple of years ago, Richard Hawke, and how he, man, I mean, it's just terrible, all the things that he did to the kids, and especially in Malaysia, because he was in Malaysia for a couple of years, and he was trading in all these forums, showing off the pictures of the kids that he has done harmful things. And it was not found, I mean, these are the things that I guess we need to look into. In as much as we are excited, I'm an engineer myself. I love technology. I've been selling computers since the mid-80s, and I love to tell this story. Among the first computer that I saw was a Hewlett-Packard 386 machine with 2 megabyte RAM and 100 megabyte hard disk. And it was roughly about 10,000 US dollars, okay? And now with the technology that we have in our hands, I mean, these are like few hundred ringgit. So that brings us to where we are now in terms of technology. And there are some questions that we have. I hope, Megat, if you could help us here. Does cyber insurance work? Do we have cyber insurance in Malaysia? Is Bank Muamalat looking into this?
So in terms of cyber insurance, yes, it is available in Malaysia. There's few providers, I believe, selling cyber insurance. But I think when we talk about cyber insurance, the most important thing about it is to understand how the coverage, right? Because when people generally talk about insurance, people make a misconception or and things that once I buy, I cover everything, which actually no. right? So my advice to any organization, if you want to really buy cyber insurance, you must understand the coverage because it does not cover everything, especially in terms of data, right? Because how do you value your data is very subjective, right? To every organization. Yeah. Then I've got one question on e-wallet, whether it's secure and whatnot. So again, all these companies, they got licenses to operate e-wallets and they are regulated to a certain extent. Obviously, there's certain security baseline that they must follow. But in anything cybersecurity, right? There's no 100% guarantee, right? So it's the same like you use Shopee, you use Lazada, or you use Grab, you use Uber overseas. It's always there's always a risk, right? So in terms of security, so what we need to understand is all using these all digital tools. You yourself need to be cyber smart and make sure that you yourself not being compromised lah. I would say that's the best advice I can give.
Thank you, Megat. We are coming to an end here, and my closing remarks are going to be this here, guys. Cybersecurity and innovation, working hand in hand, can bring us forward to an exciting and, of course, a digitally enabled world. By being cyber savvy, we can be confident in taking full advantage of every technology opportunities, and of course, with proper education and awareness, and in conjunction with the mitigation of risk at the company level, at the individual level, and definitely at the national level, we can position ourselves for a better future and a sustainable transformation. And gentlemen, with that, I think we end our session here. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Megat.
Thank you.
Hope to meet you guys physically soon. And with that, I pass back to Sean and to the MOU signing. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our panelists as well as our moderator for that exchange. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to present a special feature for the virtual Memorandum of Understanding MOU signing between Palo Alto Networks and Universiti Malaysia Perlis UniMAP for the Cybersecurity Academy and witnessed by MDEC.
MDEC applauds the industry collaboration established between Universiti Perlis or UniMAP and Palo Alto Networks towards making UniMAP an innovative world-class institute within ASEAN. Such effort is in line with the recently launched Malaysia Cybersecurity Strategy or CSS by National Cybersecurity Agency or known as NACSA. Under the strategic pillar 4, enhancing capacity and capability building, awareness and education, the goal is to improve capacity and high-value skills in cybersecurity workforce. Cybersecurity is one of the key enablers to the digital economy. As such, issues in cybersecurity space need to be addressed. One of it being the cybersecurity talent gap faced by the industry. MDEC has been actively working with industry leaders and universities to accelerate the journey of cybersecurity talent development. Collaboration like Palo Alto Networks and UniMAP complements our initiative in bridging the talent gap and support Malaysia's need for 18,000 capable cybersecurity professionals by 2024. Last but not least, I'd like to congratulate UniMAP and Palo Alto Networks on the collaborative effort of cybersecurity talent development and look forward to an impactful outcome. Thank you.
UniMAP is excited to have this strategic partnership with Palo Alto Networks, the leading cybersecurity company in the world, to equip the next generation of students with the hands-on cybersecurity knowledge they will need to survive and thrive in the ever-changing global cyber threat landscape. Palo Alto Network Cybersecurity Academy enable UniMAP to provide advanced cybersecurity curricula and next-generation security technology. This partnership reinforces the commitment UniMAP has to provide its students with a first-class, industry-ready education. This program also provides certification roadmap to a formal certification that will add significant value to a student's resume. This definitely will increase the employability of the UniMAP graduate students as they are prepared with the most relevant knowledge and latest technology to be leaders in the cybersecurity field.
Thank you very much for the kind words there. I appreciate the collaboration between MDEC and of course UniMAP allowing us to participate with you both in this very, very important initiative. I had the opportunity to hear from the Vice Chancellor and his very kind words about the partnership as well, which I'm delighted about. The Cybersecurity Academy is a very important program for Palo Alto Networks, but also for industry, to be able to come together and build those next professionals of the future in an industry that is moving incredibly fast and faces a talent gap and a real high degree of thirst for talent in the market. So to be able to partner with UniMAP in Malaysia, it's a tremendous opportunity for Palo Alto Networks, our team on the ground, but also more broadly to be able to help cultivate these incredible talent, perhaps then have them deployed into the Malaysian community to help protect the digital way of life for businesses and communities in Malaysia. So to both MDEC and also to UniMAP, thank you so much for the partnership and the collaboration. We look forward to many years of success together.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now be moving forward to our next session and it will begin shortly. Click Join Session.